She was just washing dishes until he saw her 47 scars and whispered Shadow 7. They say every base has ghosts, not the kind that haunt the halls, but the kind that carry silence in their eyes. You can tell who's seen the fire by the way they hold a cup or wash a plate, as if they've done harder things than most men could imagine. At Fort Bragg, in the mess hall behind the 7th Special Operations hangar, there was one of those ghosts. Her name was Clara James. On the roster, she was a civilian kitchen worker, employed to handle dishes and prep meals for the enlisted men. But to those who paid attention, something about her didn't fit the mold. She worked quietly, always early, always precise. When others laughed and cursed and banged trays, she kept her eyes down, washing, scrubbing, stacking, repeating, like a rhythm she couldn't stop. Most soldiers didn't notice her. To them, she was just the dish lady. Until one night, the storm outside was coming down hard, rain tapping the tin roof like a steady drumbeat. A few Delta operators were eating late, their uniforms still dusty from a night exercise. Among them, Captain Marcus Hale, a man known for his discipline, his sense of justice, and a habit of seeing what others missed. He watched Clara for a moment, her hands quick, steady, controlled. Too controlled. You don't move like that unless you've been trained, and you don't hide scars like those unless you've survived something dark. It happened by accident. One of the younger soldiers dropped a tray, metal crashing across the floor. Clara bent down to pick it up, sleeve slipping down just far enough to reveal a pattern of scars, thin, deliberate, layered like the map of a war that never ended. Not the kind of scars you get from accidents. These were surgical, patterned, tactical injuries. Marcus froze. He'd seen wounds like that before on the bodies of classified operators, the kind that didn't exist on paper. When Clara noticed him looking, she pulled the sleeve back up and turned away, but he couldn't unsee it. Later that night, when the hall was empty, he found her outside by the dumpsters, rinsing metal trays under the rain. He approached quietly, no rank, no authority, just curiosity wrapped in respect. "Those scars," he said softly, "they're not from kitchen work." She didn't look up, then stopped looking. Her voice was calm, measured, not defensive, just tired. Marcus hesitated, then whispered a name. A name not spoken on record anymore. Shadow 7. The water stopped running, her hands froze midair. For the first time, she looked at him, and in that look, he saw recognition and pain. For years, Shadow 7 had been little more than rumor among Black Ops units, a covert strike team, all female, deployed under temporary clearances to places that didn't exist. Unofficial, unsanctioned, a whisper of an experiment in psychological and asymmetric warfare. The stories said the program ended after a failed extraction mission in Syria. Everyone was listed as KIA, no bodies recovered. But now, standing in the rain behind a base kitchen, Marcus realized one of them was alive, scrubbing trays, hiding in plain sight. Over the next few days, Marcus watched her more closely, not out of suspicion, but out of respect. Every motion she made had discipline, every silence had weight. He finally confronted her again, this time not as a soldier, but as a man who'd seen his own ghosts. "Why are you here?" he asked. "If you were Shadow 7, you could have gone anywhere. Why dishes?" She didn't look up, because dishes don't bleed. That silence after was heavy. He understood more than she realized. She went on, softly, barely audible under the hum of the dishwashers. "They told us the mission was humanitarian, but it wasn't. They sent us into a civilian village to erase evidence of a private contractor's crime. When we refused the order, they erased us instead." Marcus stood frozen. He'd heard whispers of rogue command actions, orders buried under national security, but never proof until now. Marcus could have walked away. Most would have. Getting involved in classified Black Ops politics could end a career or a life. But something about Clara's words stuck with him. He started digging quietly. Base archives, mission debriefs, deleted comm logs. The deeper he went, the darker it got. Files redacted by private security companies, payment records from defense contractors tied to the mission, and one unmistakable name, Colonel Arthur Baines, current head of internal operations at the base. The same man who often came into the mess hall, smiling, joking, patting soldiers on the back. The man who apparently had signed the order that sent Shadow 7 to their deaths. It didn't take long for Marcus to feel the heat. His computer access was suddenly revoked. Someone from JAG called him in for an informal conversation, and Clara stopped showing up for her shift. When he finally found her, she was sitting alone in the barracks laundry room, wearing the same gray hoodie, silent. "They know you're asking questions," she said. "Stop before they do to you what they did to us." Marcus leaned against the wall. "I can't. You deserve justice." She shook her head. Justice doesn't exist in shadows. But he looked her straight in the eye and said, "Then let's bring it into the light." Together they started compiling proof. Clara still had fragments, encrypted mission logs, old audio files she'd hidden after the betrayal. It took weeks, long nights, and every ounce of caution. They built a dossier, one that connected Colonel Baines to the illegal operation, and worse, to civilian casualties intentionally buried in classified archives. Marcus leaked the evidence to a trusted contact at the Pentagon Inspector General's office. Then they waited. Days passed. Then at 300 hours one night, the base erupted. MPs, unmarked SUVs, command offices raided. Colonel Baines was escorted off base. Word spread fast. Officially, it was called an internal audit. Unofficially, everyone knew someone had pulled a thread that unraveled a monster. When it was over, Clara packed her things quietly. Marcus found her outside the mess hall, the sun barely rising, painting the tarmac gold. "You could stay," he said. "They'll clear your record." She smiled, faint, tired. "They won't. Too many names on too many papers, but it's okay." He looked at her, searching for words. "Where will you go?" She looked toward the horizon, the morning mist rolling across the base. "Somewhere quiet, somewhere I can just be Clara." Then she paused and her eyes softened. "Thank you, Captain, for seeing me." He nodded slowly. "You earned that long before I noticed." As she turned to leave, the sunlight caught her scars again, faint silver lines across her forearms. But now they didn't look like pain. They looked like armor. Months later, the news broke quietly. A congressional hearing on classified contractor misconduct linked to covert operations overseas. Among the documents entered into evidence, an unsigned statement titled Shadow 7. It told the story of 7 women who refused an illegal order, who chose conscience over command. Only one survived to tell it. The report was redacted, sealed, and buried. But within the ranks, the name Shadow 7 became legend. Not an official unit, not a file, a reminder that sometimes the bravest act of service is to say no. Every now and then, Marcus still walks into that same mess hall. The new workers don't know her name, but when he sees a cup sitting just a little too perfectly stacked, he smiles, because he knows that somewhere out there, Clara James is alive, not as a ghost of war, but as a woman who turned her pain into truth. The world may never know what she did, but the men she saved, the justice she sparked, they'll carry her name in silence, just like she carried her scars. In the end, true courage isn't found in combat or medals. It's found in the quiet choices, when you stand for what's right, even when it means standing alone. Because sometimes the bravest soldier isn't the one with a rifle, but the one washing dishes, hiding 47 scars and the soul of Shadow 7. True courage isn't in battle, but in standing for what's right, even when you stand alone.